Welcome to the premiere of Off the Record. We're going to test out Jordy Nelson's knee with the Fantasy Doctor, eat Josh Moore's Flutie Flakes, find out why Jody Smith hates Matt Forte so much, and why nobody wants to believe Tahal about Tyrod. OTR starts now. All right, so this is Off the Record, the premiere debut episode. I want to welcome you. I'm Andy Singleton, People Fan on Twitter. Got a lot of nervous excitement coming to you from the Nickel Press TV studios, which is actually just my house in Brooklyn, which is right now doubling as a studio. Some of you may recognize Hanging Einstein over here. This is not that show, Nickel Press TV. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, in which we put out 105 videos over the last year. So I want to thank you all for your continued support. But now that we hit year 2, we're looking to take things to yet another level. So basically what I wanted to do is create and bring you a loose, fun, exciting kind of show, a roundtable, if you will. I wanted to bring you the guys that you love to trust for your fantasy football advice and open them up so you could see them, hear them, get to know them a little better. And then we're going to batch and berate them, pick them apart, try to sort out and analyze their thoughts and why they think these things for the 2016 fantasy football season. Interestingly enough, I came up with the name Off the Record. Didn't really put too much thought or research into the title. Began to promote it on Twitter, and then a friend of mine, Sal Stefanile, the two-quarterback legend and Canadian hero, pointed out to me that Off the Record with Michael Landsberg just happened to be the longest-running sports show in Canadian history. But apparently they just ended just over an 18-year run this past December. So now we are officially the only OTR in the game. I've even asked Michael Landsberg himself to come on this show, so we'll see what happens with that. But basically, you're going to see me each week. You're going to see Tahal Bedek, who you might know from other things on Nickel Press TV. He also works for Razzball. We're going to have the Fantasy Doctor, Salim Parekh, as well, to give you some medical advice and injury breakdown. As I mentioned, we're elevating things to a whole new level. So we have not one, but 2 new producers helping to add the quality that you would like to see in a professional product in this show. And then to top it off, we have an insane list of guest panelists who are going to be joining us from week to week. We're going to have as many, a minimum of 2, as many as 3 or 4. This week, we are joined by 2 very special guests and 2 guys who have been phenomenally nice and great to me in my time in this industry. Josh Moore and Jody Smith. We'll get to them in a little bit. I also want to point out, if you're wondering why we are debuting this week, it's because the Hall of Fame game is this Sunday, August the 7th. So that's right, football is actually back, and we are now going to go through the next 26 weeks all the way to the Super Bowl with this series. So hopefully it's better than it's not. And this is the preseason, so bear with us as we work and fine-tune our game plan. What else did I want to tell you? Make sure you check out the rest of the shows on Nickel Press TV. You got Roto RX, Fantasy Baseball. You got Deep League Diving with Joe Redman. I want to also make sure that you guys are fully aware that the Draft with Giants second annual contest is being ready to launch Monday, August 8th. We have 8 spots to give away. That's why you should definitely be subscribed to Nickel Press TV on YouTube. Make sure you follow the Twitter account so you're aware of all these contests and giveaways that we're going to be doing all throughout the season. Last thing, I just want to mention Revo Labels. If you're a fantasy commissioner, if you do any live drafts, make sure you check out RevoLabels.com, and it's guaranteed it's going to enhance your draft. They got fully customizable draft boards, full color player logos on the stickers, everything like that. You can save 10% on your order by mentioning Nickel Press TV at checkout. And that's it. Let's roll with this show. I want to introduce Tahal Bedek. We're going to hear what the Lord has to say, and I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. So, Mr. Bedek, what is on your mind as we enter the 2016 fantasy football season? What weighs heavy with the Lord?
A lot weighs heavy with the Lord. Mainly, I feel like you put the video together for me last year on Tyrod Taylor. I put it out there before he was even given the job, before it was even close to being over with. I said he was going to win the job. I said he was going to be a star. I noted the weapons, the O-line, whatever, even with his weapons breaking down constantly over and over again, he had to do it by himself, becoming the best, most dynamic rushing quarterback in the NFL. Yet I received no publicity for this. I'm not one to be begging to be seen or heard, am I?
Occasionally.
Okay, well, maybe. But the fact is, I tweeted this to Tyrod Taylor before. I haven't got any respect for being the only one in the industry. I got these guys who have billions of followers on Twitter saying, I can't wait till Tyrod falls flat on his face every single week. And he just keeps D'ing him every single week, putting it in. And I'm just sick of it, man. I'm sick of it that now people are on the train a little bit. I mean, I can only feel like he might regress a little bit, or he's going to get injured or something. And then I'm going to look back. But I put this out there way before anybody even was considering this guy as a starting quarterback. Nobody ever gives me any credit except for you and my stepdad, Celine Parekh, the greatest doctor, Duke University. Did a lot for the lacrosse team to help out that scandal afterwards. I give him all the credit where that is
I thought
due.
you were actually involved in that scandal.
Yes, I turned down a scholarship. I think lacrosse is kind of lame. I just played for fun and dominated in high school just for fun. But I'm more of a football guy myself. Just happy to be here. Talk about Tyrod Taylor. Talk about running backs. I dropped on my running back article on Razzball.com today, my preseason rankings. I'm a little higher on a few guys than most, maybe like a Latavius Murray. I still like where everybody thinks he's going to lose out to this rookie Watson or whatever or what is his last name? Washington. And then I also like Langford more than most people. I also like LaShawn McCoy than most people. I'm a little concerned with David Johnson, with the Chris Johnson and some of the stuff the coach is just talking, though. I think he'll still be fine. But the rankings are there. Go check them out.
Well,
Tell me
I'm going to lead you in to the doctor, and I'm going to ask, before I turn it over to the doctor, about Thomas Rawls, because you being a Seattle Seahawk, at least last season you were, before you pledged your allegiance for the Patriots. But you still live in Seattle, so I think you do like the Seahawks, so you still follow them. Thomas Rawls, the doctor's going to talk about him, talk about a couple other guys coming back from injury from last season, entering this season. What's your quick take on Thomas Rawls before the doctor jumps in?
Man, I'm a little concerned, I got to say. I mean, when he got hurt originally, it looked like it was just a kind of a minor thing. I didn't even know if he had surgery or not. I just thought, he'll be fine. Like, the guy's still not even close to playing. I mean, I think Christine Michael is kind of leading the way right now. And then they Pro Size, he just got banged up, pulled a hammy or something like that. He's going to be out. He seems like the kind of guy who's going to banged up all the time. Former receiver. He's obviously soft, so I'm confused as to what's happening there. Rawls, I don't know. Maybe he got a little bit lucky and the offensive line just played extra well when he was in there. I'm not sure if he's as talented as he played last year. Obviously, he went undrafted for a reason. So I'm a little concerned. I think there's a chance that it's either a timeshare or maybe he gets passed up by somebody or maybe he doesn't fully recover from the ankle. I'm not sure. I am concerned. I'm interested in what the doctor has to say about that. Why don't you have him break it down for me real quick?
All right. Well, that's a great lead in, Tahal. You're my stepson. So here's the deal. All you got to do is think about RG3 and know what fractures and dislocations of an ankle can cause. RG3 just had a dislocation of his ankle, didn't have a break. The problem is Rawls had a break with the dislocation. What does that mean? Well, you got three bones that stabilize the ankle and that make up your ankle. You break one of them, and then the whole ankle dislocates, and that's a big problem because it takes a lot of stress and a lot of energy to cause that kind of damage. He had surgery, bones got put back into place, it all healed. But the problem is the amount of energy that goes into that ankle really causes some permanent damage to the ankle, leading to pain, swelling, and problems with mobility. And so just like RG3 struggled without the break to come back, and now we'll see what he does with the Browns, I'm looking for Rawls to struggle this season. I agree with you. You've got to worry about his physicality to begin with. There was a reason he was undrafted. And now on top of that, you've got an injury that you've got to worry about, and it's a big injury. I think you're going to start seeing him slow. He may not get much playing time throughout the season. If he can't show that he can pick up the pace and really hold down the demands on him, I don't know if you're going to get much out of him being an owner for him.
How about Gary Barnidge, one of my cult favorites from last season? You had some things to say about Barnidge just entering this 2016 campaign.
Yeah, so Barnidge underwent sports hernia surgery. If you kind of touch yourself down towards your groin, but don't get to the groin, that's where the sports hernia injuries are. And he had a surgery back in June, early June, to basically rebuild the fascia or the tissue on top of the muscle to secure that muscle back where it belongs. That usually is a pretty quick timetable to get back. So usually 6 to 8 weeks, you'll see these players back onto the field. I don't anticipate him missing the starting game. I think he'll be there game one, and he'll perform well. So I'm looking for big things from him.
Okay. Major, the polarizing player entering this year is the return of Jordy Nelson. What do you feel about his injury recovery?
Yeah, so Jordy Nelson had a right ACL tear last season, had the surgery to repair it. If you look at the orthopedic literature, looking at the players in the NFL who have ACL tears, there is a drop in performance, about 10 to 15% drop in performance. But I anticipate he's going to do well. The problem is he's already on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, the start of this preseason, because he's having left knee injuries. That's not the injury where he had the ACL tear. That's the right side. Now we're worried about his left side. Initial reports, he's got some tendonitis, so he's going to work through that. It'll take a few weeks. We'll have to see how he does. I do anticipate he'll have a good year, and barring any other injuries, he should be fine.
So you're not concerned about Jordy Nelson?
No, I'm not. You know, again, most of these guys get back on the field with ACL tears, and they may have a little bit of a drop, but it shouldn't be significant.
Okay. Another very popular wide receiver, Odell Beckham, here in New York. He just suffered something to his leg. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Odell Beckham this Sunday was doing some passing drills. Legs got caught up with the defender and ended up actually hobbling out of camp. Didn't practice Monday, didn't practice Tuesday. Word on through some of my sources that this is just a minor contusion type scenario. The Giants aren't really concerned. They don't think there's any real bone issues. I think it's a day-to-day scenario. We should see him, practicing later on this week, if not next week. And I don't anticipate any issues game one.
All right. And then finally, to wrap things up for the IDP crowd, probably the most popular defensive player, J.J. Watt. You had something to say about him. And then one of the most controversial picks of this draft season is Jaylon Smith, who was arguably the number one linebacker who was fearing not even getting drafted at all, and was, as you just showed, by the Cowboys. So tell me about Watt and Smith.
Yeah, so let's go to Watt because that's the bigger issue. I think that's going to have implications this season. J.J. Watt has a herniated disc that got operated on where they did something called a microdiscectomy. And if you look at your spine, it has, think of them as segments of bone known as vertebral bodies. There's a cushion in between those bones known as your disc. It can herniate and push on the nerves. It pushes on the nerves big enough or large enough, you can start having nerve problems, weakness, pain, and problems performing. So he had a microdiscectomy where the surgeons make small incisions, get through the back muscles into that area where the disc is, and clean out the disc off the nerve. Sounds like a simple surgery, but think about it. Tiger Woods had those microdiscectomies and was unable to get back to playing golf. I'm not saying J.J. Watt's not going to play football again, but the initial reports is that he's going to be back within 6 weeks. I don't think that's going to happen. I anticipate him missing the first few games into the season. You may see him back mid to late September, but I would bet that he's not going to be back the first game or two. And then just to hit on Jaylon Smith. Jaylon Smith, controversial pick. Cowboys thought they got lucky picking up as a second-round draft pick. And maybe the future is bright for Jaylon Smith. But as of today, it's very worrisome. Jaylon Smith had an ACL-LCL tear of his ligaments in his knee that he can recover from. The big issue is the nerve issue. The nerve that's damaged is the nerve that helps to pull your foot up and point it out. So if that doesn't work, then you can't run, you can't cut, you have a hard time playing football. And so if Nerve is not waking up as fast as they anticipate, that can take up to 2 years to come back. The Cowboys are speculating maybe they'll see him later on this season. If I'm a betting man, I'm telling you he's not coming back this season. I've taken care of a lot of people with peroneal nerve injuries. They take a long time to get back. And even if he comes back a little bit, that's not going to be good enough for a player who's got high expectations from him. He just isn't going to be able to perform until it's almost normal. And that's going to take at least this season, if not into next year, if it comes back at all. He may be a wash of a pick for the Cowboys if the nerve doesn't come back.
Wow. So all you guys who thought you got a steal by taking Smith later in dynasty drafts, you might have wasted a pick there. Well, Doc, I want to thank you for your medical insight and analysis. Let me introduce our guest this week. Again, this is our premiere debut episode, so I had to kind of reach in and get somebody I know could handle any type of any type of brief that we give him, and that is, of course, a guy who's become a friend, Josh Moore. He's out on Twitter at 4for4_Josh. He is the owner of 4for4.com, 4for4 Fantasy Football. One of the how would you describe your site? I was gonna say one of the most trusted, but
you just keep going, man.
Well, you are a back-to-back.
Handsome. Don't forget handsome.
And, well, I've told him many times that he's got probably one of the best beards in the industry, and there are a lot of beards in this industry. But you are a back-to-back top 5 finisher.
Is he related to Doug Moore?
No,
I'm related to all the Moores, I guess.
He's lucky that there are a lot of more popular names. No, Doug is actually with Jody now, Gridiron Experts, and this is my other guest, Jody Smith. Jody Smith NFL on Twitter, co-owner of GridironExperts.com. Nice enough to join me as well this week. I don't anticipate harassing Jody as much because I don't know Jody as well as I know Josh. But hey, everybody's fair game on this show, so we'll see what happens. I was mentioning Josh is a back-to-back top 5 finisher in Fantasy Pros most accurate rankings, and Jody was 2012 Fantasy Pros most accurate ranker. Period. He also has written a book that you can get on Amazon, Welcome to the Machine, basically his journey from Tecmo Bowl all the way through being the most accurate fantasy football expert. And Josh, I want to ask you real quick. You have a pinned tweet that says, "My entire life is dedicated to making you less productive at your day job." So you basically...
So kind of when I've been on Twitter for a long time. It's one of the great ways that we've been able to broaden the reach of the 4for4 brand. But what I realize is that my tweets on Twitter, my fantasy tweets, always do best around 10 in the morning, and then like until about noon, and then everybody goes to lunch. And then right at, around 1:32, they start doing good again. And then 5, there's nobody on Twitter until the late night crowd. So it became pretty obvious that, the main thing we're doing is providing you guys something to do and kill time at work so that you can enjoy your day there and not actually get as much done.
Episode 1, and you already dropped a gem with a great marketing strategy for people to follow when it comes to Twitter. Jody.
Yeah, I feel pretty, one more thing. I feel pretty proud every time I hear someone tell me that our site is banned at their work. I mean, obviously I don't want it banned, but that's kind of cool, right?
Really? So you are blocked from corporations, is what you're trying to say. Mm. There's a firewall for 4for4. Well, Jody, you're in Houston. You've been hanging out at Texans camp since it started this week. I want to ask you a couple questions about the Texans. We're going to get into that. But I'm going to start with you. We're going to keep the format of the show very simple. I'm going to ask these guests on a weekly basis the guy they have to have, the guy they have to avoid, and what has been the biggest storyline that has jumped out to them this week. So since we're about to hit week 1 of the preseason, since everybody's in draft mode right now and preparing for all kinds of drafts, I'm going to ask you, Jody, right off the bat, who is the guy you have to absolutely have on as many teams as you can get him this year?
Well, first, let's throw in a caveat that I never have the philosophy of entering any draft with any preset philosophy of who I have to have or what positions I have to attack or anything like that. But the one guy that I see myself targeting the most throughout most of the drafts I've done this year, and it's not necessarily unpopular, but I love Randall Cobb this year. I think he's going to bounce back great. When you look at what he has done with Jordy Nelson in the lineup, there's one year where he missed half the season, but I averaged out the numbers, and what you come up with is an average of 87 catches, 1,167 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And throughout all these years, Cobb has always been the predominant red zone target for the Packers. And even last year, the down year, he actually got 25 red zone targets, which was fifth in the league. I did an expensive breakdown of all the red zone targets last year. And Cobb, he didn't overall do fantastic in the season, but he was still busy in the red zone. And I think the Packers, with Jordy back in the lineup, they're going to bounce back. They're going to be healthy. We're optimistic that with this new shredded Eddie Lacy that we're going to get some balance back in that offense. So Randall Cobb would be, a guy that I probably is at the top of, my shares, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know how great I feel about that, just because Randall Cobb basically, quite frankly, scares the crap out of me. It's all right there. Everything you just said, and I'm assuming some of those receptions came off of Devontae Adams' drops. But once you saw Jordy Nelson go down with the injury last year, it seemed like the Packers' whole team imploded. And I like what you're saying with Nelson coming back, that there will be more balance. Hopefully, Skinny Lacy can do the same thing. Bennett, what's your take on Cobb? You like Cobb this year? You agree with Jody? Are you a Cobb believer?
I do to an extent. To me, he was one of the most disappointing players. Obviously, in fantasy last year, he got bumped way up in draft boards. Once Jordy Nelson got hurt, I was kind of one of them that thought, just with the uptick in targets, that he would have an absolute monster year, but he just didn't look good. He just wasn't even getting open. I'm like, is this guy hurt, or is he just not as good as I thought? But he's definitely going to have a little bit more opportunity with a fully healthy receiving corps there. But, I don't know, man. I just did not like what I saw at all from him last year. He just did not. He just looked like he just wasn't a very good player to me. I was shocked. Doug Baldwin is a superior player to a Randall Cobb, and I can't believe the words came out of my mouth. I used to just be like, Doug Baldwin's just a bum. He's just a normal average receiving threat, mediocre. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I'm not. I can see Cobb bouncing back majorly just because he'll probably be a little bit more open. But I did not like what I saw last year going against number one corners. I did not like what I saw at all. Not feeling him.
All right. Well, Josh, you be the tiebreaker because you're up in NFC Northland, and you gotta break a tie here. Bennett would rather have Doug Baldwin than Randall Cobb, and Jody would like to have Cobb on as many teams as he can get him.
Can I take Eric Decker?
Eric Decker for the win. Wait, do you really want to?
I like Cobb. I don't think he's actually that great of a player, but ultimately I believe in Aaron Rodgers and respect Aaron Rodgers. But like you guys mentioned, obviously without Jordy Nelson there, it was a problem. He's not a number one wide receiver. So I think, as that number two wide receiver, no one else really stepped up last year. So as long as Jordy's back and taking that number one corner, I think Cobb will put up good numbers. But there are some other guys like Edelman, Baldwin, Decker, Golden Tate. They're all kind of going around the same spot, and I don't feel strongly that I would take Cobb over any of those guys probably.
I was waiting for the tweet reference, Mr. Detroit, and you managed to sneak it in there. Was the Decker thing anything for Fitzpatrick, who is now recently re-signed, and you model your beard after?
He models his beard after me, but he's got a better mustache than I do, so I'll give him that. But no, I'm glad. Obviously that's a good signing for the Jets to bring him in. They should have brought him back sooner. But I'm kind of bummed that he got signed because I was picking him off like in the last round of drafts, and now he's Fitzpatrick, that is, and now that he's signed, he's back up. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm going to give Jody and everybody a chance to get back at you now. Who is the guy you have to have this year?
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Who is the guy?
All right. Well, I mentioned him earlier, and I really like Ladarius Green moving to the Steelers. With the Chargers for years, he was, basically a tight end one when Antonio Gates was out of the lineup, but he was just too inconsistent. His snaps were too inconsistent when Gates was playing. Now he moves to the Steelers, who lost Heath Miller and Martavis Bryant. Miller had 81 targets last year. Bryant had 92. Some people like Sammy Coates. I mean, he should get some looks, but really I think Ladarius, as long as he can get on the field with that ankle and stay healthy, I think he should see huge volume. And Heath Miller was, a reliable kind of waiver wire tight end week in and week out for years. I think Ladarius Green has easily top 10 tight end potential. He could be Jordan Reed, Olsen caliber player, I think, if he can stay on the field.
Jody, can you counter that? Are you a Green believer?
I'm a believer to a certain standpoint. I don't own him a lot, but all of the points that Josh made were really good ones. And you've got a lot of targets that are now open in Pittsburgh, and I don't see a huge improvement for the Steelers defense, which is actually a great thing when you have this defense that can give up some points, and an offense is got to keep trotting out numbers. And then when you look at the passing game now, if Le'Veon Bell is suspended, that's going to be 4 additional games of a ton more targets out there. I like Ladarius Green just fine. I think Josh hit the nail on the head when he said top 10 guy, because that's about where I have him. I have him at tight end 8, tight end 9. Typically, I'm a wait on tight end guy, so I usually miss the run on those top 10 guys, and I'm targeting the depth of the secondary people like Dwayne Allen, Jason Witten, guys like that, just on the next tier down. But that's just comes as a draft. I find myself either generally with Gronkowski, occasionally Jordan Reed, or I'm waiting for those third tier guys, like I said.
I'm hugely a fan of waiting on tight end in general, because if I don't get Green, like you said, there's a ton of guys. I love Allen too. Ebron could break out. Who knows? I like Fleener a lot, although he's a bit earlier. But there's tons of depth, so don't go early at tight end.
This guy will sneak in any Lions player he can at any opportunity.
I actually hate Ebron, but a lot of people think he might break out, so we'll see.
Jody, you let him off too easy, but we'll get him back with the next round. I know Betic loves tight ends, and I'm not talking about football or fantasy, or maybe it is his fantasy, but who's the guy that you love and have to have this year? Is there one? Because I know you like to change your allegiances based on what day it is and what the weather is, but who is the guy today at this moment in this hour that you have to have?
I'm usually I went from waiting on tight ends kind of guy to taking Gronk to taking Jimmy Graham early, except when Graham came to the Seahawks. Obviously, I wasn't feeling that at all. But where Jimmy Graham's at right now, I'm kind of confused. I'd like to hear Celine, Stepdaddy, tell me what's going on with him and his injury, because even before last year, like anyone who's not a complete moron knew Jimmy Graham wasn't going to do anything close to what he did with the Saints, yet he was still like a guaranteed 2-3 top tight end every week. He was ranked that high everywhere that I saw. Every preseason, people thought he was going to be great. Now he's way down at the late teens, and I'm kind of like, okay, if this guy's, even if he misses 1-2 games, Seahawks kind of high prolific passing attack last year, which was incredible, record breaking. If it's anything looks like that at all, like, how is this guy not ranked way higher? I need to hear the doctor weigh in on this. Because, if I can get him that late, I'm all aboard. Jordan Reed has been my boy for years, since his rookie year. He finally didn't get injured and did that. He's probably going to go a little bit too high for my blood. I discovered Gary Barnidge last year. That was sensual, and I enjoyed that. He's a legend. Can he bounce back and do the same thing again? Probably not. I've always been a Ladarius Green fan. There's nobody I need to have, man. I'll wait and take Jimmy Graham late. Or Dwayne Allen is ranked way too low. He looked like a superstar 2 years ago to me. I don't know what happened to him last year, but Fleener's gone. He's going to go off.
All right. Well, I thought you were going to say Tyrod 1 overall. The doctor is out seeing patients, so we'll have to ask him another time about Jimmy Graham.
I'm going to Snapchat him right now real quick.
You mentioned Jordan Reed. He's a guy actually I have to personally avoid. I can't buy into his price tag this year at all, especially with the injury history. I know he looked fantastic last year, but it's still too high of a price for me. But let me start with you, Josh, this time. Is there anybody you're avoiding? I just mentioned I'm avoiding Reed if I can, based on where he's being drafted. Is there somebody in particular that stands out to you, or somebody that you're saying, Everybody else is talking this guy up. I don't see it. I'm not buying it. I'm out on him.
Yeah, I can't buy into Ezekiel Elliott as a first-round pick. He's got absolutely no track record. He's going to a team. Not that McFadden and Morris are anything special, but they're both seasoned veterans. I'd rather take a proven stud in the first round like Allen Robinson or DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver. You know what you're going to get, than a rookie running back, even if he's going to a great situation.
George.
Also, I traded him in my dynasty league, so
he's going after Texas natives now, Texas people. I'm not even sure. Elliott's not a Texas native, but he's in Texas.
Yeah, he's Texas. Like some off the field stuff he's worried about. It's just, I see him going 3rd, 4th, 5th in drafts, so that's just too steep for me.
Jody, is this guy crazy?
Well, his point is correct. Josh is right to say that it's a bit of a gamble to take Ezekiel Elliott in the first round because there's plenty of talent there. Oh, but however, I think Elliott's going to be fine. I actually have him as my RB4. You're talking about a guy with a complete total skill set. Even as a pass blocker, if I'm not mistaken, he allowed 0 pressures in college, which was pretty phenomenal for a running back. But I think because there's a little bit of criticism for Dallas in this era taking a running back at number 4 overall, I think they're going to be more than happy to give him so many carries, and he's shown to be an excellent receiver. Again, he's great in pass protection. So I actually expect if he stays healthy that he's going to get plenty of touches to justify being a top 5 running back. But so I'm not going to disagree with Josh's sentiment if his sentiment was it doesn't make sense to pass on a more proven veteran to take a completely unseasoned rookie. But at the same time, Ezekiel Elliott is a nice if you're into a gambling type of person, Elliott seems like a high upside pick, and I can certainly see the hype surrounding him.
Well, let me ask both of you: did you feel the same way about Gurley last year? I'll start with you, Jody.
Yes, and then we all started to get crazy about Amir Abdullah after Abdullah, I think it was his first or second preseason game, looked like, a phenomenal stud. So we all got sidetracked, and we all started moving Abdullah up, and we kind of forgot about Gurley. So, Gurley, I think, was he 3rd round ADP, something like that last year?
He was hurt, though, going into the season, so it was a little bit different situation.
Right.
Also, landing spot. I think that has everything to do with Elliott this year with the line and what's already in place. But there's a lot of question marks in Dallas with Romo and with Dez. Not so much Dez, but certainly with Romo every year, right? But it really...
Yeah, that's another reason, just instability there. But, the main reason really is just that I want a wide receiver in that first round. There's maybe some running backs that I make an exception for, like Le'Veon Bell, maybe if he was playing full 16 games, but someone I haven't seen in an NFL uniform, no thanks.
I'm not agreeing with you. Just so you know, I'm not agreeing with you. But
That's fine.
Lord, what's your take on Elliott?
It's tough, man. I still have him as of now. I definitely got him in the top 10 there. I'd probably be a little nervous myself to take him. I just feel like, the offensive line is so sexy that, since they decided to draft a running back in the top 5, which I don't agree with the decision in any shape or form for that particular squad. But, if they're going to do it, I'm going to assume they're going to pound him out from day one and not do no timeshare with McFadden, even though McFadden was fine last year. I would have waited on a running back. But, if he's decent at all, I don't think he's as talented as Todd Gurley. I don't think not even close. I don't think he's that level of running back that should have gone that high. But behind that offensive line, he should go off.
Yeah, well, you only find yourselves in positions to draft that high every so often. So that's what it's going to take to get a player of his caliber. There's so many players in the Texans organization that I would love to ask you about, Jody, since I have you on, you being up close and personal with the Texans. I love a lot of players on that team. Obviously, they added Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins. I was ringing the bell for him before everybody else was last year. I'm not saying I was the only one, but before he broke out, I was saying he's quarterback proof. Now you get a quarterback. A lot of good things happening. Any of them on your avoid list, or are we going outside of the Houston organization to find somebody you're not really wanting this year?
No, I'm actually optimistic. I can tell you the first day out in training camp when DeAndre Hopkins wasn't out there, uh, I was a little nervous. Anytime they're just in shorts and shells, you take it with a grain of salt. It's first day, there's going to be rust, but it wasn't good. The quarterback play was, in particular, was pretty rough. But Jalen Strong was playing in DeAndre Hopkins' place, and he looked great. On the first day. Second day, first play that I walked into when I walked up to the sidelines was DeAndre Hopkins going over the top and catching a touchdown, and he looked great both day 2 and day 3. I think him and Osweiler have certainly, in the 2 days that I've seen them on the field together, have made a nice chemistry. They're going over the top on Jonathan Joseph. Nuke today made a great one-handed catch in the end zone. I thought he looked great. I will tell you this about the running game. What I saw today was it wasn't that good. One of the first drills they did this morning was goal line drills, and the defense ate up the offense. They were 7 straight runs. They didn't get anywhere. It took until the 8th play for them to finally cross the end zone, and that was with the third team defense. And again, it's the first full day in pads, so you don't read too much into it, but. Lamar Miller certainly looks like he's going to be getting the priority goal line runs, and I think that's what we care about because there was some talk that he's going to be used heavily as a receiver too, but there was some concern that they would take one of the other backs on the goal line, but it's not what I'm seeing early so far. So it's certainly something that I'll keep monitoring while I'm out there.
Got it. Yeah, I'm going to be checking up with you, and hopefully everybody will be checking up with you throughout the season on this. Ty Irvin was one of my favorite players at the Senior Bowl.
We talked to Bill O'Brien today. Stephanie Sadler from the Chronicle was standing right next to me, and she asked about Tyler Irvin, and they're kind of grooming him, I think, to potentially be the punt returner. Bill O'Brien actually said that one of the reasons they drafted him was for that very reason, for him to spruce up their special teams. And Houston's special teams has been pretty bad for a couple of years. So Bill O'Brien specifically said that one of his last plays in college at San Jose was an 82-yard punt return. So he's somebody that's probably going to get first crack at being the punt returner, in addition to some change of pace. Real quick on the Texans, if I had to guess right now, I'd say Cecil Shorts is in jeopardy. And from what I've seen, Braxton Miller's lining up as the wide receiver 3 quite a bit. It's very surprising to me, but that's what I've seen a lot so far.
Okay. So going back to outside the organization and fantasy-wise, who's the guy you really are down on entering drafts?
Real quick, I'll go ahead and spruce up the excitement here. One guy I'm not that high on is Matt Forte. I can't see him going as an RB2. I understand how good he's been as a PPR back, but if the talk that they really want to use Bilal Powell is something that actually comes to fruition, then you're talking about guys that have kind of complementary skill sets. So to me, that sounds like kind of a potential committee situation. And Bilal Powell has some 500-something career touches, whereas Matt Forte has over 2,500. So that makes me a little nervous. Earlier, we hit on Doug Baldwin. No interest. I think, to me, he's one of the most overdrafted guys. There's no way that Seahawks are going to keep passing at the volume that they did down the stretch last year, where Baldwin just went nuts. And I think with Tyler Lockett being one of the more popular fantasy guys this year, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Lockett actually get a few more targets, maybe even surpass Baldwin there. And just before we shove it back to Josh, I'm going to say I have very little interest in Matt Stafford this year. What you got the Lions, they're kind of redoing their whole offense. Maybe Josh can feed in there, but I'm just not interested in when you see a quarterback who loses a Hall of Fame caliber receiver in Calvin Johnson. It makes me a little nervous. While I like Marvin Jones just fine, and Anquan Bolden was a nice catch for them last week, I would be really concerned that Stafford's going to take that momentum that they had after their bye last year when Jim Bob Cooter just totally redid everything and it was great. I have a lot of trouble believing that momentum's going to carry over, and I think Stafford's being overdrafted.
Well, he certainly did spice things up because he took shots at everybody else on the panel. Matt Forte with the Jets, Stafford with Josh and the Lions, and he went after Fedek's stepbrother and favorite player of all time, Mr. Doug Baldwin. What do you got to say about that?
I mean, if I'm keeping it real with you, I wouldn't have. I'm not even a big Doug Baldwin fan. It was more of a shot at me not being a huge Randall Cobb fan after he fell flat on his face last year, embarrassing himself, and I don't want to be a part of that again. Baldwin has at least shown what he can do. Lockett, I think people are a little too overboard on Lockett, though I'm probably his biggest fan. But I mean, I don't know what. I saw some people predicting just some nutty stats, which, I mean, it's possible. But I'm a fan. I mean, I don't take offense to it. I won't be drafting Doug Baldwin anywhere. I'm just saying I prefer him to Cobb, but I won't be drafting him anywhere. So it's all good in the hood. No problem.
Well, Mr. Moore, do you feel the need?
I'm certainly not targeting Matt Stafford anywhere. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment, but I feel like every year since 2012, I hear people telling me that Bilal Powell is going to break out, and I'm not buying it. So, I mean, I'm not like super high on Forte, but forget about Bilal Powell. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm the resident Jet fan here, and I would have to agree. It feels like he's been nice, but this should have happened sooner in his career. So I'm not certain I'm buying into it now. And contrary to what Jody was saying about Forte, I actually am loving this. I'm being reminded of LaDainian Tomlinson, Thomas Jones, all these guys that were thought to be, retreads and washed up, coming in and having career years once they hit the Big Apple. So I'm looking for big things from Matt Forte, a.k.a. Common. I hope you're wrong on this one, Jody, because this is supposed to be a playoff year for this suddenly very old Jets team, which is filled with playmakers and high salaries, but it is pretty old at the end of the day, too, when you look at Brandon Marshall, Decker, now Forte, even Fitzpatrick. So
I'll be equal opportunity fading all Jets pretty much this year because I don't see any way that Fitzpatrick comes anywhere close to what he did in this anomaly season that he had last year. So that's just my opinion.
I think he could duplicate it. I don't think he can improve upon it. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him regress from it. But what about Jason Morrow, another Texas guy?
Well, he's on the radar, but if they're going to trot out the same offense they did last year, I mean, there's really not any point in targeting any other. They basically didn't even use tight ends at all. You can't hardly even name the third and fourth receivers in New York. It was basically complete targeting of Decker and Marshall. And if they're going to do the same thing, and why wouldn't they if it was so successful last year? That's what I would expect, the same thing. And, Forte, Powell, however they run up the running backs, that's going to be your third target people there. So Amaro, if healthy, sure, he had some appeal. He looked good coming out of college and all. But, again, in this particular offense, I don't see how he can have much relevance or much of a fantasy role.
Well, I was only asking about Amaro because you said fade all Jets, so I was hoping maybe there was one that slipped through the cracks. The third receiver you were mentioning, who actually was like a large wide receiver, kind of tight endish in some sense, was Quincy Enunwa, who happens to be my Jet sleeper that you might want to take a look at this year. The most intriguing storyline to me of the past week, we had a lot going on, Le'Veon Bell stuff, but I think the thing that jumps out first and foremost, is the guy who apparently stopped doing that, and that is Josh Gordon, who was reinstated. I don't know why he's going to have to miss the first 4 games, but he's being asked to sit out the first 4 games. Fine, we get him for at least 12. For fantasy, you get him for in the neighborhood of 8 to 10, depending on your league. So I'm going to start with Josh because we haven't heard you in a few minutes. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to start with you. I'm going to start with the Lord. And I'm going to ask you, what is your feeling now that Josh Gordon is back in fantasy relevance? Are you excited? Are you partying? Are you celebrating as a result of this? Are you doing anything that would have gotten Josh Gordon resuspended?
I'm always doing those things, but that's not really have anything to do with it. So it's not his being not suspended is not affecting me. I can't. It's always disappointing me when players of this caliber, possibly the most talented receiver in the league, is just continually cannot stop smoking marijuana. It is seriously not that difficult. This guy's already cost himself probably tens of millions of dollars. Even if he balls out, whatever contracts he get are not going to be whatever he would have gotten if he could just stop smoking the herb. But yeah, I mean, I'm semi-excited. I mean, I would be happier if Josh McCown was the quarterback. At least I know to throw down the field. RG3 is just an absolute dud to me at this point. I'll be interested if he can turn it around in any way possible. They're obviously friends or whatever, or played at Baylor briefly or whatever the case may be. So maybe he'll be dialed in, but I'm just not. I'm not giving RG3. I'm as big of a fan of his as you could be, and like he's just not good anymore. And I'm just not. I would probably be wary of probably any Cleveland receiver, any player on Cleveland, period. But yeah, if there is one, it's Josh Gordon, and that's the one you want to take. What round is he going in? I'm not sure right now. I don't know where I'm going to be taking him, but yeah, I'm semi-intrigued. I'm just not an RG3 fan whatsoever.
Yeah, I know he was hanging out with Kendall Wright with the Titans this week, but I'm just waiting for Art Briles to be named an assistant or a wide receivers coach or something to do with the offense.
That'd be a good one.
For the Browns, now that they got Coleman, RG3, and Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
You know I love Josh Gordon, but man, I mean, I don't know. He's been on my Dynasty Taxi Squad now for it seems like 4 years. Like glimmers of hope. He was so awesome for a short stretch, but I have a lot of red flags with him coming back. I mean, literally, anytime I tweet about him, I get DMs in my box, literally with eyewitnesses of him, like smoking blunts or whatever. Like literally, like multiple people telling me, I was at a party and Josh Gordon was there. You know, that kind of stuff. And you know, just his track record in general and the NFL's arcane rules, I don't have a lot of hope. Plus, you know, he had basically a year off football, so I think he's probably going to disappoint more owners than he'll. But obviously, he does have that wide receiver one upside. But you know, I'd also just like to take a moment and say to the NFL, you guys need to like wake up. This is really, I don't know if I can curse on here, but it's really stupid. You know, we've got medical marijuana legal in 26 something states. You know, it's legal completely in certain states. There's studies showing that it actually can help with concussions, and we've got NFL teams passing out opiates like candy. You know, I personally have, you know, known multiple people whose lives were destroyed by opiates. So wake up NFL and wake up Josh Gordon, and I would absolutely love it if he returned to his wide receiver one form.
Jody, I'm turning it over to you now. Are you taking either stance that these two gentlemen have just expressed towards Josh Gordon, or are you super excited that he's back?
No, I'm not particularly super excited that he's back, but this Josh Gordon, he just seems like a guy that he just doesn't get it. If he is seriously going out and getting himself in potential situations where trouble could arise, I mean, what are you thinking? And this is a whole new staff in Cleveland. You know, they're looking at things from an analytical standpoint. They didn't draft this guy. They inherited him. They may realize, you know, that he's got some talent, but they may also say, you know what, he's just not worth the headaches, and they may just, you know, send him off. People are just buying into that one season of just craziness that he put up, and we, the fantasy football community, definitely a reactionary crowd. I hit on earlier Amir Abdullah. The dude was crazy, basically all based on one carry in the preseason where he just looked phenomenal, and even I fell for that.
Not me, not Lions fans. Lions fans did not fall for that.
Well, Jets fans did.
I just see him as someone that's overvalued. Every time he goes, it seems like every time I'm in a draft, he goes 4 or 5 rounds minimum higher than I would even think about taking him. And I'm sure I might have gotten him in 1 or 2 of the MLF 10s that I've done. I've done like 20 something earlier in the off season, but you're talking round 18, round 19, and maybe I was like, I won't take a third defense. But again, the key for me is I have yet to see this guy even gets it. And we're not even hearing from him to see if he's saying and doing all the right things. Instead, in the last 2 months, all we know is hanging out with Johnny Manziel, and that doesn't sound like the recipe for success to me.
Well, they also drafted, what was it, like 17 wide receivers? So the whole team is young, impressionable, and this is now – it is just human nature. The rookies coming in are going to, for a period of time, look up to him, regardless of what they think of him off the field before they entered the league, anything like that. It's just human nature. They're going to look up to this guy. He's older. He's more tenured. So are you all in agreement that this guy might not even last with the Browns this season, whether it's for getting suspended again or getting traded or cut or underperforming?
Yeah, again,
Tampa bust all over him.
what about
I put it
just what
50-50.
Le'Veon Bell supposedly got in trouble for? He couldn't. He missed. He didn't know it was a drug test or something like that. I mean, it sounds like the kind of small things that Josh Gordon could get in trouble for, and that's the end of the road.
Right, and that would be
Is it
literally
better than 50-50 plays a game this year? I mean, seriously?
Did he even play one game?
Yeah, one game.
I think he's got to play at least one, no?
That's like a long time from now, guys.
Yeah,
Well-
and hey, something could have already happened that's just, being in the process of developing right now. I think it's fair for Josh to say between now and the end of September, can Josh Gordon stay clean? And that's assuming that he's been out of trouble and not doing anything to get himself in any bad situations over the past 6 months or so. I think it's probably a fair assessment. Again, it doesn't sound like something that would be too interesting in throwing a 9th or 8th or 7th round pick where you sometimes see him going in on a guy that's a 50-50 proposition to even play.
Yeah, do you either of you know, because I'm not sure off the top of my head right now, is he allowed to play in the preseason?
I believe they said he was able to practice with the team. I don't know about playing a preseason, but I think they may have decided that it would be better for him to have that support around him, so he is supposed to be able to practice.
All right. Well, I want to ask you guys any final words, any final things you want to plug, any players you want to promote or denounce before we wrap things up?
Well, I was going to talk about how important I thought that Brock Osweiler potentially was, but only because you're talking about two potential top 5 guys that he's kind of developing here, with Lamar Miller as a top 5 running back and Nuke Hopkins as a top 5 receiver. But we kind of hit on that earlier, so I'm not saying that Brock Osweiler is all that. I'm just saying he's a key person that we'll be watching, because there's so much fantasy relevance potentially in Houston that is tied into his development.
Well, I mean, you know what? Let's expand on that, because I like that topic, and I'm sure Josh and Tahal will have something to say about this. But for me personally, do you think his floor is high enough? Because to me, there's quarterback 5 or 6 through quarterback 15 are all separated by fractions of a point. So somebody was saying the other day that Carr would finish as QB6, and somebody else was saying no, he's more like a top 15. And my reaction to that was, I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes the QB6 or the QB15, because it's really probably going to be separated by less than 20 points at the end of the season. So my question
for Osweiler, I don't think Bill O'Brien wants to necessarily run an offense that's going to have Brock Osweiler be a potential QB1 in fantasy. It's just the potential that, to me, if he bombs and he's not good, then that's going to really have a negative effect on Miller and Hopkins, who are both, like I said, first round, second round guys in fantasy. Maybe, to me, best, O'Brien, when you look at the overall numbers from what Houston's quarterbacks did last year, were actually pretty good. I think O'Brien's done a great job coaching for the last 2 years, but keep in mind that the first half last year, Houston was just a disaster, and a lot of those numbers were coming in second half when they were, after they already gotten blown out and it was garbage time. But, I just don't see Osweiler, maybe at best he can get up to around QB 15, 14 in that area, but I have him pretty comfortably at like QB 22, somewhere in that range, and I feel fairly safe there. QB is so deep that it's not somebody that you're ever going to think about having as a starter. If you do, then you did something wrong, probably.
Well, outside of injury, does he start 16 games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They gave him all that money. They're going to lay in the bed that he made. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, as I outlined in my case for Nuke last season, he's quarterback proof. So if you think he's going to put up anywhere near what he did last year, then Osweiler has some value, especially as you mentioned with Jalen Strong looking good, Braxton Miller, you got Will Fuller and Lamar in the backfield. So plenty of options, regardless of what offense they're running. I think he'll definitely be reliable if he's starting 16 games.
The one situation that I've got my eye on really is the Lions passing offense with the departure of number 81 here, as we talked about. I won't wear the helmet like you did last time, Andy, but yeah, I think it's just going to be interesting. There's a lot of moving parts there. I was really stoked that they signed Anquan Bolden because Obviously he's not a big playmaker at this point, but he can go over the middle and take those big hits, just like Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson basically ran on the field, made big plays, but he also worked really hard underneath. So I think Bolden and Marvin Jones kind of together bring that skill set. So I'm excited to see what those guys and then Golden Tate can do. And if if Ebron can ever step up and, learn how to run a route and catch some balls, that'd be great. But really it comes down to the offensive line. I think last year what we saw in the first half of the season, Stafford was just getting annihilated. And after he took a couple big hits, his games really went to crap. But then later in the season, the schedule softened up and the offensive line played a little bit better. It didn't show up in the sacks, but they weren't blindsiding him, so maybe they're sacking him, but they weren't just knocking his lights out, and he started playing better. So I think a lot of it's going to come down to the OL, but really interested to see how that offense shapes up.
Well, I know Tahal's caught a lot of balls in his life. I'm wondering where his Seahawks helmet is, because everybody else on the show seems to have a representation of their team. So before I'm scared to know what you're pondering and looking for at this point.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the only helmet I own, the only autographed helmet I have is actually a Drew Bledsoe New England Patriots helmet. It's funny that he was once my favorite player, only to be replaced by Tom Brady. Hurts me. Maybe brought down the value of the helmet a little bit. I'm not sure. But I do have an autograph. Steve Largent, football right behind me, says, Lord, God bless Steve Largent. He's a big religious guy, but he's around here. Met him personally in politics around here. Really great guy. Probably the most underrated receiver of all time. Make sure you guys all pay homage to Steve Largent. Got the football right there.
The West Coast Wayne Corbett, Steve Largent. All right, I like it.
Don't ever compare Wayne Corbett to Steve Largent ever again, please.
How about you never compare Steve Largent to Wayne Corbett again? What do you got to say about that one? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. We're going to give away at some point, we're going to raffle off a day in Josh Moore's Playhouse, where you will have to play with his trophies, his helmets, eat his Flutie Flakes, and drink his liquor. Jody Smith, at Jody Smith NFL on Twitter. Again, co-owner of Gridiron Experts. Check out all his work there. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Tons of great stuff. One of the most accurate fantasy football predictors out there, so make sure you follow him.
Hey, hold up. Are they going to beat me this year? I'm back on Fantasy Pros last year. They excluded my rankings last year because I was on a fishing trip and they didn't get my week run rankings, and some problems happened. So just so you know, guys.
Weeks 2 through 17, Bedick was overall number 1, but season long, the first week eliminated him. We're going to do some kind of contest with our guests on this show to see who could be most accurate off the record. But Josh Moore, again, owner 4for4.com, 4for4 Football. Make sure you check out all their stuff. Phenomenal stuff. They got a lot of DFS going on this season as well. Sahal, Lord Bedick on Twitter. Razzball fame. I'm Andy Singleton at People's Pen. Like I said, I don't know if this was a success or a failure or somewhere in between. But we're in our own preseason mode, so we're going to iron the kinks out. Next week, we're going to be joined by James Todd, better known as Spider 2Y Banana, writer for RotoViz, and Andrew Thomas Jordan, who's writing for Inside the Pylon. And that's going to do it. I want to thank the producers. I want to thank all the people watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. And follow Twitter so you get in on cool contests like Draft with Giants, which is kicking off this Monday, August the 8th. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.